Hello and welcome back to the Box Score. I'm your host, Sam DeCoste. There's only one place we could start tonight, the World Series from Houston. Game 6 between the Houston Astros and the Atlanta Braves happening Tuesday night. The Braves going in up 3-2, and a win would seal a championship for Atlanta. To the highlights we go. Top of the third, 2 outs. A high fly ball from Jorge Soler, making his case for MVP for the World Series. That's out of the building. That's a 3-run home run for the Braves. It's 3-0 Atlanta. Then top of the 5th, this is Dansby Swanson from Christian Javier. Off the wall into the stands. His second home run of the series. That makes it 5-0 Atlanta. It would be as high as 7-0 as we head to the 9th with 2 outs and the 0-2 count. That ball played by Swanson again. He throws it to first base, and that's it. It's over. The Atlanta Braves are champions of baseball. They've won the World Series for the first time since 1995, and the celebration is on. Here's 5-time All-Star Freddie Freeman celebrating the win.
This team went through everything possible. We hit every pothole, every bump you could possibly hit on the road, and we overcame every single one of them. And what this team did since the deadline, we were the best team in baseball, and when we played like in the postseason, that's why we're here.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Freddie, how does it feel to bring a championship to Atlanta?
Awesome. It feels real good. This is what you dream about every single year, and we were able to get it done.
The 2021 Atlanta Braves may be the most improbable MLB champions of all time, and one of the greatest showings of resilience and strength in professional sports in recent history. Their landslide Game 6 win culminates what was a long road to hoe for the Braves, and a road that most of us thought closed a long time ago. This team lost their starting pitcher and star outfielder both in a 2-week span, Mike Soroka and Ronald Acuna, to season-ending injuries. After losing Acuna in July, the Braves sat at an 8% chance of making the playoffs. They were 5 games back in the NL East at the trade deadline. And then fast forward to the playoffs, the adversity kept on coming. Jorge Soler, who went on to be named World Series MVP, tested positive for COVID during the NLCS and missed most of the series against the reigning world champion Los Angeles Dodgers. The Braves even lost pitcher Charlie Morton to a broken leg in the first game of the World Series. This team was below 500 all the way up until August 6th, and they finished with the worst record of any playoff team in MLB this season. Their season was on life support. Any championship aspirations for Atlanta were squashed months ago. But this team, they stared adversity in the eyes and marched on. They didn't panic. Other teams in baseball would have rolled over if they endured the same turbulence as these Braves. They didn't sell at the trade deadline, they didn't give up on their season, and they didn't quit on their fans. It just made their championship run that much sweeter. Then they won the NL East and knocked out the Milwaukee Brewers, then the LA Dodgers on their way to a World Series appearance. And from there, it was one-way traffic. This series went to 6 games, but the Braves won games 5 and 6 by a combined 16 runs to 5. The Braves hit 11 home runs in the series. The Astros hit just 2. The Astros didn't stand a chance. Houston's blistering hot offense from the ALCS was shut down, and the Braves put on a show. And with that, for just the second time ever, Atlanta is a city of champions. The Braves winning the World Series in the same city that the Falcons blew a 28-3 lead in Super Bowl 51, winning their first World Series championship, the Braves, since 1995. Now let's talk about how the Braves actually pulled this off. I'm now joined by a pair of resident baseball experts, Jaclyn Galvin and Michael Logerwell. Guys, at the start of the playoffs, the Braves had a 9% chance of winning the World Series, and now they go and beat the Astros in 6 games. How did they do it?
Well, I'll give you 4 words for how they did it, Sam. Soler, Riley, Swanson, and Freeman. Yeah. Those 4 almost single-handedly carried the Atlanta offense. Mm-hmm. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, and honestly, I really think that a huge takeaway that we can have here is that, trade deadline acquisitions matter so much. Obviously, Soler, he was with the Royals before, Michael's hometown team. No, he's got to give a shout out there. But He was the MVP of the World Series, and he wasn't even playing on this team for the whole season. That is just such a huge, achievement for this organization. They didn't give up once their star got hurt, and they really did make the most out of this season.
So how important was that? Because like I said, during the season, they were on life support. They were limping at the trade deadline, but instead of selling their team and accepting, this isn't our year, we'll go for next year, they were aggressive at the deadline and they got better. How important was that?
Well, really, I mean, that was the most important part of their season. And it ended up, Ronald Acuna getting injured ended up being the saving grace for that team because it added so much outfield depth. And they were able to give up nothing. They gave up Pablo Sandoval and a bucket of baseballs for the NLCS MVP, and they traded a 25-year-old who's in single A for Jorge Soler. Like, that's just unbelievable scouting and, trading by Alex whatever his name is, the Braves GM.
Yeah, and honestly, I really the Astros bats were just completely silenced during this whole World Series. I mean, when would have any of us thought that they would only hit 2 home runs in a World Series? Soler had 3 home runs. He had more home runs than the entire Astros team, and that is just unheard of for, a team as hot, an offensive team like the Astros. But I think that also has to do a lot with the Braves bullpen and just pitching in general.
And the Astros were really hot going into the World Series, the way that they dismantled the Red Sox, and then for them to go quiet like that. The Braves have been really good at exploiting their opponents' weaknesses in the playoffs this year. And when the World Series came about, even though the Astros won 2 of those games, it really wasn't that close.
No, not at all. And that's that's just a huge credit to the Braves pitching staff. Take, for example, Yordan Alvarez, ALCS MVP. He almost hit for the cycle in one game, in a playoff game. And then he gets to the World Series and he has 1 or 2 hits maybe.
Yeah.
Like Tyler Matzik coming back from the yips, Ian Anderson, Charlie Morton, all these guys on the Braves pitching staff just lights out. They were pitching possessed out there.
Yeah, and that also has a lot to do with Brian Snitker, their coach, or their manager, excuse me. He has been with this organization for 4 decades. He has been there for so long. He only took over the reins 5 years ago, but he plays that old school baseball. He plans for these hitters, and that I think is why they shut down those Astros bats, which credit to them because that is a hard task to do.
We touched on it, but just to build on it a little bit. Jorge Soler, MVP of the series. Let's just talk about how special he was. He made the impact. And was he the difference between these 2 teams in the series?
Yeah, so actually I got a really great stat for this. So on Baseball Reference, they have championship win probability added. And Jorge Soler had 23. 23. No one on the Braves even had maybe above double digits.
Oh my gosh.
23. That's how impactful he was. All 3 of his home runs were go-ahead home runs. And as a Royals fan, I'm not going to lie, I knew he had this in him. That first half was really rough, but the week before he got traded, he was hitting the cover off the ball. Atlanta got the 48 home run hitting champion. That's who they got.
So, not to talk about it's still, the World Series was this week, and not to look ahead too far, but how good could the Braves be next year? Can they go back-to-back, or was this a fluke?
I don't know if this is necessarily a fluke per se, but I don't think that any of us saw them winning the World Series. If you asked us, even in the pitch meeting that we had last week, I think both me and Michael said absolutely
Going behind
not.
the scenes a little bit?
Yes, exactly. But Freddie Freeman, he is kind of the backbone of this team. He's a free agent, so if they can lock down Freddie Freeman, I see a positive future for this Braves organization.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, it's time to start talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. What's going on with Patrick Mahomes in the offense, and can they be fixed? We'll let you know after this.
yourself or get over it. Life is unfair. Kill yourself or get over it. Life is unfair. Kill yourself or get over it.
Welcome back to the Box Score. I am joined once again by Jaclyn and Michael, and we welcome in Cooper Sherman. Guys, the Kansas City Chiefs are struggling. After 8 games, they are 4-4, the team's worst start to a season since 2015. This team is coming off 2 consecutive trips to the Super Bowl, but they sit at 3rd place in the AFC West, and they're reeling. Cooper, what's wrong with the Chiefs?
Well, I don't think it's Patrick Mahomes necessarily. He's not been bad. He's thrown 19 touchdowns.
Are you sure about that?
And he's third.
Hey, let him speak.
He's 3rd in the league in passing yards. He's got a 94.5 QBR. So it's just like basic numbers that we've been seeing from Mahomes these past few years.
Patrick Mahomes is obviously not the problem in Kansas City. Everything that he's doing that could be considered a problem is because the defense is piss poor.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest problems
so
of the
bad.
Kansas City Chiefs are number 49 and number 56, Ben Neiman and Daniel Sorensen. They might be the worst players in football. I'm going to say it right here.
That's a hot take.
So it's the defense is the problem. It's not Mahomes.
Yes, definitely.
No, Mahomes has been throwing a lot of turnovers, but it's because he's been trying to do too much, because he's trying to put the whole team on his shoulders, which is what is causing him to make these decisions to throw poor passes. And then also, a lot of them aren't his fault, according to his mother as well. But they aren't his fault.
Mama knows best, right?
Mother knows best. But the receiver, in at least 2 or 3 of his picks, has batted the ball, or it's gone off of his dome. Literally, they really have not been his fault, but they have been credited to him, rightfully so. Sorry, Patrick Mahomes' mom, but that's really the issue with Patrick Mahomes, is that he's just doing the most.
I'd like to share some stats with you because we love stats on this show.
Love
so
stats.
Patrick Mahomes, he has 16 interceptions in his last 14 games. The Chiefs have 19 giveaways as a team. That's the worst in the NFL. That's 4 more than the Jets in 2nd place, just so you know. And Mahomes has 10 picks in 8 games this year. He's been picked in 7 straight games. So I think that he's not completely innocent. I think that he's had a big part to do with what the Chiefs are doing. And also, you could also say that maybe the receiving core isn't that good.
I would agree the receiving core is definitely subpar once you get past 2 Hall of Famers in Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce.
That's fair.
But, I mean, hey, a lot of interceptions, sometimes you got to spend money to make money. You know what I mean? Obviously, he can be a little more careful. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you that he's perfect. But, he's doing kind of what he has to do, and he's super young, and he has that $500 million man tag hanging over him. It's just really tough, but if we're talking problems, I'm not talking offense.
Cooper, what do you think that Mahomes has to – because obviously Mahomes is struggling. This is probably the worst season of his career so far. How does he turn it around?
Well, yeah, I think what Jaclyn said really is the point right here. He's just got to stop doing too much, trust a little bit more in his receivers, and don't throw as many wild throws. I think that's the key. It's really tough to replicate a Super Bowl season that the Chiefs had last year.
We had 2 of them.
Let alone, I was just about to say, let alone 3 years in a row. It's hard to make it back, and I think that's also kind of getting to them at this point. There's a lot of pressure when you're at the top, especially when your fans are pounding you to keep on going. There were a few issues on social media. I forget which Chief it was.
Tyrann Mathieu and Anthony Hitchens.
Saying that the Chiefs the fan base was awful and they expected so much of them. But when
we can talk about the fan base all we want, but in terms of the pressure that's building, the pressure's been on Mahomes and Andy Reid for so long, ever since they were paired up together. Why is it that this year they can't put it together? And can they find a way to fix it? Can they make a run? Can they go to the playoffs? Can they win the division?
So believe it or not, I will disclose I am from Kansas City, Missouri. But I do believe the Chiefs have a dark horse chance of winning this. They just took a major step in improving their defense by trading for Melvin Ingram.
Yeah.
That'll allow Chris Jones to move back inside where he's the second best D tackle in football. And Nick Bolton is starting to really emerge as a star. He's one of the NFL leaders in tackles, just won NFL Defensive Rookie of the Month. Like, they're playing Daniel Sorensen and Brett Neiman a lot less. So things are looking up.
And this Packers game coming up with Aaron Rodgers being out, I think that is really the momentum that is going to push this Chiefs team forward in order to, turn their season around.
All right, let's move on from the Chiefs. Let's talk about the most competitive division in football, the AFC North. As we speak, the Ravens are in first place despite a head-to-head blowout loss to the Bengals in Week 7. And the Bengals have been the standout surprise package of the season so far, while the Steelers are still hanging around at 4-3. And the Browns are the bottom of the division, and they were one of the preseason Super Bowl favorites. I know Jaclyn was big into the Browns.
Yeah.
But
I'm still big into the Browns.
There's talent from top to
Still
bottom in this division. So let's start with the Bengals in this division. They're 2-0 in the division. They beat the Steelers and the Ravens. Are they a serious threat to win the division this year? Cooper, what do you think?
Yeah, so what team is
Bengals.
Bengals. I think the Bengals are definitely a threat to win the division this year. They got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, a great duo, both from LSU. They've just been great this year. We got Jamar Chase, who's got 7 touchdowns this year, along with 700 yards receiving and some change. And if you throw Joe Mixon in there, that's a well-oiled offense right there. So I think this Bengals offense is great. And they're not just great on offense. They're great on defense also. They're 6th ranked on defense, and they have the 7th ranked offense. So on both sides of the ball, this Bengals team has been very solid this year.
Yeah, and they were so great on defense, they let up only 34 points to the New York Jets.
Hey, Mike White was playing out of his mind in that game.
Mike
that's
White.
all I'll say.
Who is that? Like, literally, I think that they are just too inexperienced to win this division, unfortunately. As much as I would like to see them win, because it's just such a random team that none of us would have thought of, I just don't think that they have what it takes because of that inexperience. Maybe next year, but not this year.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Jaclyn. I will say the Bengals do have a chance. I will acknowledge the chances there. But right now, my money's on the Baltimore Ravens. They're so experienced. I know you can say stats. They're not like a top defense, and they're not like the top of the top on offense. But Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh, they know how to run a football team.
But but that Bengals loss, like, how much stock do you put into that? Because that was a really bad loss. And that was the worst loss in Ravens history against Cincinnati. And right now the Bengals are obviously they're behind the Ravens in the division right now, but you think the Ravens are still going to win it?
Hey, broken clock's right twice a day, Sam. I don't really know what else to say about that. But, I mean, okay, listen here. Remember when Tim Tebow was the quarterback of the Denver Broncos? You know who was really the captain of that team?
Who?
Matt Prater, best kicker in the
kicker,
league.
Matt Prater.
And you know what? You know who has the best kicker in the league this year?
The captain.
Justin Tucker.
We love punters and kickers on the show.
Literally, you just got to get the ball past to the 50-yard line, and that's
true.
a guaranteed
Not even,
3 points.
Like, not even past the 50-yard line.
I know people like to talk fun about punters and kickers or whatever, but Justin Tucker really is the real deal, and he really does make the Ravens a much better football
All right, enough
team.
about the kickers. Let's get back to the actual sides of the ball that matter. So, Jaclyn, how much does the Ravens' defensive struggles bother you?
First
with
of
how the
all,
Ravens
that
can do
was
this year?
rude. Second of all, I don't think that the Ravens' defensive struggles are much to consider currently, just because I just don't think that any of the other teams in this division will be able to pull out and make it to the top. I personally see that 3 of these teams can make it out of the division and into the playoffs.
Which is that team? What's the team that you're leaving out?
Okay, I'm leaving out the Steelers because I just don't think that the Steelers have what it takes. I think that the Browns could feasibly make it, but it really, all of these injuries, they had 16 people on the injury report yesterday. That's not what we love to see. So I'm kind of heating back on that take, even though I love the Browns. But I really don't think that, I think that the Ravens will be fine. They have the experienced quarterback, they have the experienced coach. But moving on to the Browns are all injured. Baker Mayfield has 2 torn shoulders, basically.
How much does that shoulder injury scare you for Baker Mayfield?
Oh, I am not I don't think that he should be playing. Honestly, to sacrifice his own health and his future with the organization to play through this season, on paper they are fantastic, but I just don't think that he should be playing currently.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how the dust settles in the AFC North. Now, from football to football. In honor of West Ham's win over Manchester City on a penalty shootout in the Carabao Cup, our correspondents here at the Box Score wanted to put their shootout skills to the test. Let's see how they did.
Because Manchester City got eliminated from the Carabao Cup, we're going to be shooting some penalty kicks to see how we fare. Here we go. Here we have Chris on his first attempt, set up to kick. Oh, and that's a terrible miss right there. Absolutely shanked it wide right. So Jaclyn, what's the key to being a goalie against Chris?
The key to being a goalie against Chris is to just stand in the net because clearly he can't hit it. So
here we have Jaclyn up to kick against Chris, who's the goalie right now. Let's see how she does on this first attempt. Oh, and that's a goal! And into the left corner. Wow.
take it away, Coop.
Oh, and it is knocked down by Chris. He is so excited that he finally got a stop.
Cooper, what went wrong?
I think I just aimed it wrong. I was trying to aim it right, but it didn't happen that way. I think if I did, I probably would have had a much better chance of getting it in.
All right, looks like Chris is trying to play some mental games on Cooper, and he steps up and he kicks it in, and it goes off of Coop. What are your thoughts here?
This is great.
Will Cooper make it? Oh! And it hits the corner. What is going through your mind right now?
Wow, I'm just so hyped right now. That was all I could have hoped for right there.
Let's see, Chris. Oh. Right through him. All right, so the final here is between me and Chris. Chris, you're going down.
So Chris, great win today. What were you looking to do on that last kick? Were you was it a conscious effort to do something different than you did in the last two kicks?
Yeah, well, I was trying to lift it because all the other ones were straight on the ground, and I think that one was also straight on the ground. I don't really remember. I'm not remembering much, but it was tough. It was a tough battle. Just happy to get the win. But yeah, it was very tough competition today.
Thanks for that. So Jaclyn, how do you feel about your performance here today?
You know, I had a really strong start. I, kicked it right in that corner, tried to aim there again, and it just went right on the outside. It was really a crushing defeat. I did hold out some hope that Chris would, kick it out like he did the first time when I was his goalie. Maybe he just wasn't, intimidated because I wasn't in between the pipes. But you know what? It's fine. We all have our off days, so I'm glad that Chris could get one, and I'll get you next time, Chris. That's all I'll say.
Great. So from Rochfield, the box score. Back to you, Sam.
Surprise, surprise, Chris winning yet again. Someone's got to stop him. We're going to take one last commercial break, but when we come back, we'll introduce a new segment to the show, the Mystery Draft. You don't want to miss this.
And when I arrive at my destination, I'm gonna kill Bill.
Cutting. Sorry, can we get some of this light?
Where in God's name is the gaffer's tape? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nate.
And I'm Casey, and we're the National Broadcasting Society.
Come out to some of our weekly workshops, or work on some of our sets.
Explore the bigger picture with NBS.
We'll see you there.
All right, let's get another take. Camera, sound.
Welcome back. Here at the Box Score, we love stats, and our next segment is entirely built on stats. We're going to play a little game that I like to call Mystery Draft, and we're going to put Jaclyn and Michael on the spot right now. We've compiled a series of graphics with 2 sets of NFL player statistics who each play the same position. We have sets for quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. The catch is that Jaclyn and Michael have no idea who the players are. We've concealed their identities on purpose. They'll have to pick who they would rather have on their team without knowing the player's name. After that, we will reveal who the players are on the screen, and the answers may surprise you. It's part of the mystery. All right, let's get started. Let's see the first graphic. These are 2 quarterbacks right here. Right there they are, okay?
Ooh.
You see their passing yards, touchdown interception ratio, completion percentage, and passer rating. Very indicative stats of how good a quarterback you are. It's pretty close.
All right.
That is close.
I'm going to lock in QB number 1.
Okay, that's perfect because I was locking QB number 2.
So we got head-to-head, both of you on opposite sides of the fence. That's exactly how Mystery Draft thrives. So let's see who they are.
I'm so scared. Josh Allen, let's go.
Hey, I'm good with that.
Okay, so Michael, you picked Kirk Cousins. Explain
Mr.
yourself.
Monday Night.
So first of all, I think Kirk Cousins is very much hated on way too much. I mean, come on. Kirk Cousins is a winning quarterback in this league. If you have Kirk Cousins on your team, you're not getting a new quarterback. Quarterback's not a position of need. I think the Vikings, honestly, I don't know what's going on with the Vikings, but I can definitely tell from those stats that Kirk Cousins is not the problem.
How is it the Vikings are struggling with those numbers? You're looking at Kirk Cousins lined up to the runner-up for MVP last year, and those stats are as good, if not better.
Well,
that's a head-scratcher.
I would have to blame the defense.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it, but it's the defense's fault. Kirk Cousins only turned the ball over twice.
It's the
I mean,
coaching.
come on.
Jaclyn, you picked Josh Allen. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I feel fantastic.
MVP candidate from last year and the favorite to win MVP this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm on the best boat in this situation. I would love to have a team that is driven by Josh Allen. I think that he is a great quarterback. He is growing a lot over his past few seasons. I don't think I would be this excited if this was 2 years ago, Josh Allen. So I'm pretty pumped that I got him as my QB.
So we've learned today that Michael would rather have Kirk Cousins than Josh Allen.
Hey, I'm not saying that. I'm saying Kirk Cousins completes more passes than Josh Allen, and that's what I value from a quarterback.
Well, I'm glad that's nice to know going forward. Okay, that's the quarterbacks. Nice going with that. Let's move on to the running backs because that presents a challenge of its own. You see the rushing yards here. We also have receptions and receiving yards because nowadays running backs got to do a little bit of both. You see one is kind of doing he's only really running the ball, but the other one's doing a little bit of both. So who would you guys rather have?
Lock it in. Our running back number 2. I'm just as confident.
I'm taking RB1, ground and pound. Let's go.
Is it for the sake of just having the opposite? Or
no, I mean, he has more rushing yards, less touchdowns, but I mean, ground and pound. That's
okay,
all
ground and pound versus a little bit of a dynamic threat from the backfield. Let's see who they actually are.
Oh gosh, I'm so scared. Yes, okay.
What do you mean yes?
Go. Damian Harris is my fantasy running back. He is one of 2 of them, and I am pretty happy to have him. He honestly has been the Patriots' lifeline in terms of kind of getting them back into, their form. He's had 2 100-yard rushing games in the past 2 games that he's played. So honestly, I'm pretty happy with this pick.
I mean, he can't be a very good lifeline if the Patriots aren't even above 500. But anyways, Austin Eckler is unreal. He's, by the way, my fantasy running back. But
look at how that worked out.
Austin Eckler is great. I mean, he really does it all on a team like the Chargers, which has a great quarterback and a really well-rounded offense overall. And he doesn't need a ground and pound. They got a Mizzou grad, Larry Roundtree III, backing him up.
Hey, you know what? My running back beat your running back last week, so that's all I'll say.
Oh wow! Yeah. Let me know when you're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Both. So right now you got teams with Josh Allen and Damian Harris, and then Kirk Cousins with Austin Eckler. It's like playing fantasy football.
Hey,
fantasy.
I'll take Kirk Cousins and Austin Eckler over Damian Harris and Josh Allen any day of the week. That's a box score guaranteed.
Lock it in. All right, that's the running backs. Last but not least, it's the wide receivers. Let's check out the wide receiver graphic. So you have the receptions, yards, touchdowns, and average catch. So Some good indicators.
This has got to be a trick, Sam.
I know. I'm like.
This has got to be a trick.
Is it a trick?
I
don't know.
First this time because you picked first last 2 times.
Ball don't lie,
ahead.
does it? It's right there. The ball is there. You used to pick who you'd rather have. That's the game.
I think I'm gonna go with wide receiver 2, just because the yards per catch is more, so that's why.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, Sam. I know it's not great TV, but I got to go wide receiver number 2.
That's fair. Well, this is great TV when you find out who they are. Let's check out who they actually are. Let's see the wide receivers right now. Debo and D-Hop. You guys both would rather have Debo Samuel over DeAndre Hopkins, who, if any say, is the best receiver in the NFL.
You know
hey, but not us.
Yeah,
but not you.
Not here at the box score, and that's a box score guarantee.
So why did you guys pick Debo Samuel?
So honestly, the thing that stands out to me when I'm looking for a wide receiver is I like yards per catch. I want my receivers getting separation deep down the field, or a yak attack, yards after catch. And Debo Samuel,
that would be yards after catch.
He looks like he's yakking all the time. And I love that from a wide receiver. He's going to help me get down the field, and then I'm going to run the ball in with Austin Eckler.
He also has more receiving yards than DeAndre Hopkins, which, that's kind of shocking to me. But
if we're going just off this year, then maybe Debo Samuel's been better than DeAndre Hopkins this year.
Now, has he? Because the stats would say that D-Hop has not been as good as Debo Samuel, but DeAndre Hopkins is established as one of the best receivers in the NFL, but the stats show that he's having a little bit of a down year. Maybe not in the touchdown department, but with the yards and the catches.
So I will say that even though I know DeAndre Hopkins has probably drawn a lot of double teams and attention from defense, Debo Samuel has done a lot of this without George Kittle. So he has been the undisputed number 1 option on that team, with Brandon Ayuk not being great this year. So I think Debo Samuel might be putting up a lot of yards, and some people can say those are garbage time yards, but I disagree.
Just like that. Also, the Cardinals have so many good receivers, and that DeAndre Hopkins hasn't needed that much of the targets as much as he did last year.
Yeah, that's fair. Fair enough.
Or maybe Kyler Murray is Baker Mayfielding DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh.
Wow. Well, that's all for the mystery draft. Is anything we've learned here today, it's that stats tell a story, but not the whole story. That's mystery draft. Hope you enjoyed it. Before we sign off tonight, we have other news. PETA announcing that they are renaming the bullpen. Their new idea, Arm Barn. We're joined by Michael again to tell us some more.
In breaking news last week, PETA requested the MLB to change the name of the bullpen to the Arm Barn, and everyone loved it. Back to you, Sam. Wait. Hold up. Sorry. I'm looking at my notes. That must be a typo, because actually everyone hated it. But really, because a lot of people hate PETA. But I am here today to save the one innocent caught in the crossfire. The Arm Barn. Come on, people. You can hate PETA all you want. I don't really care. But Arm Barn is an objectively good name. Arm Barn rhymes. It makes you think of sentient arms hanging out in a barn. What hangs out in a bullpen? Bulls? Arm Barn is a good name. Arm Barn is a fun name. Don't hate it just because the worst person you know accidentally made a good point. Back to you, Sam.
Wow, it's a pretty strong stance. Do you feel funny that, it's been the bullpen forever and now it's going to be different all of a sudden with the snap of a finger? Does that feel awkward at all?
You know what? As a baseball player myself, I wouldn't think it's awkward. I think it would be hilarious. I would always be talking about the Arm Barn.
We have Logerwell warming up in the Arm Barn. He's getting ready to go.
Yeah. The boys are all down in the Arm Barn hanging out. That sounds so much better than, go get the bullpen warm. What's that even sound like?
I'll tell you what, it does sound like a fun time in the Arm Barn. It sounds like a vibe to be a part of. But that's it for us tonight. Thank you for watching The Box Score. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at EIV Box Score, and keep your eyes peeled for our next episode for some more red-hot analysis like this. Barcelona won't be making it back to the Champions League next season. That's right, they'll be playing some Europa League football on Thursday nights in 2022. For Jaclyn Galvin, Michael Logerwell, and Cooper Sherman, I'm Sam DeCoste. We'll see you next time. We're out.